All right, good morning. So today I was thinking that we'd cover a question that I think a lot of people are asking. And I don't think a lot of people have a really an answer to it yet at this point still. And that's not to say that I have the perfect answer either still, but and the question is, what do we teach our kids right now? So basically, like, at this point in time, I think there's a lot of uncertainty about the future in terms of, like, you know, if AI and robots are going to take all the jobs, right? Then how do you prepare your kids for a future like this, right? How do you get them ready for all of these changes? Because frankly, nobody on earth has seen any of this stuff happen before, right? There's like, this is all really, really new things that are happening. So I think it's a difficult question to grapple with. But I think also, I've been in kind of a unique position, I guess, over the last, couple of years where, I guess, between sort of my experience in software development and tech in general, my experience in, AI research and development, and then also been homeschooling my son for the past, I guess, year and a half, or maybe about a year and a half or so at this point. So yeah, what do you tell the kids, right? So first things first, you got to make sure that they understand technology, right? Understanding technology is fundamental still, because obviously it's all around us, and that's only going to increase, it's not going to decrease still. Now, one of the reasons why it's important to understand technology is because if you don't understand technology and you don't learn to, let's say, make technology serve you, then it may end up that you serve technology, right? And it would be much better to have it the other way around, right? We want these things to work for us. We do not want to work for them, right? Now, this is already happening, where you can see kind of a dividing line. Let's just use like social media, for example. You have creators and consumers, right? So everyone is a consumer to some degree, right? If you have ever read a social media post, looked at a video like the one that you are watching right now, etc., right? Then you have consumed something that was delivered by technology, right? It was using technology to, capture the video or the photo, or to, type the words into the box, using networks to send the information around the world, etc., right? So that is inevitable, right? However, the people who are really making the technology work for them, again, in just sort of this narrow example of social media, would be the people who are creating things, right? They are creating something, disseminating a message, and then, in some cases, profiting from that, right? So this obviously can apply in lots of other ways too, right? If you are, let's say, working in the gig economy, right? This is kind of an interesting thing where it's like you are more or less working for an algorithm. There's no way to put that into better words, right? I understand pretty deeply how these platforms are built, and at the end of the day, right, there are going to be people who understand the algorithm, learn how to work with it, and maximize their benefit from it, and there are going to be people who don't understand the algorithm and get manipulated and abused by it, through their lack of understanding, right? So understanding technology is key, and making sure that you are using technology to your advantage, making it serve you as opposed to serving technology, right? Now, another really important thing to understand is, I guess, like human psychology, right? Because that is something that So long as there are humans, that's going to be a relevant thing to understand, right? Understanding how to communicate with people, how to connect with people, how to understand people, how to listen, how to, problem solve, in your relationships, regardless of what kind of relationships those are. And this is something that, while in theory you could outsource this to AI, I think that's, again, a bad idea. It would be much better if you could understand these things at a fundamental level yourself and be able to use and apply the tools needed to sort of, make sure that you're able to go about and interact with other humans in a positive way, right? Understanding your emotional state and how to work with that. Learning to be empathetic to others. Being able to manage things like, anger, frustration, anxiety. And I mean, if you look at sort of the mental health statistics, like all-time high, maybe, probably. And I would say technology is definitely part of the reason that is happening, right? Obviously, there are many other factors, but since technology is basically affecting everything anyway still, that's how she goes, right? So you could say that technology is the cause of and solution to all of life's problems, in a sense. Maybe let's dial it back here a little bit. So what else do the kids need to learn? Health, fitness, keeping your body in good shape, eating good foods, making correct choices in that department still. And this ultimately means thinking independently. Because if you were to just follow, let's say, the state issued guidelines on what to eat, well, we've seen the result of that. A food pyramid that says that half of your daily caloric intake should be, bread and pasta is absolute nonsense and has led to all kinds of diseases and sicknesses and illnesses. And I myself, have had to deal with these issues basically my entire life. Now, to no fault of my parents or anything, it was really just a lack of understanding and a lack of information at the time, right? But like when mom's eating, McDonald's when she's pregnant, and then, I'm eating cereal every day for breakfast, or, frozen waffles, and then Kraft dinner for lunch or whatever, right? You do that for a couple of decades, and then boom, autoimmune disorder, right? So yeah, that's no good. So yeah, absolutely understanding, being sort of like at the edge of research in terms of health is a really good thing. And being able to think independently, being able to understand that, okay, everybody is different. Everybody has different requirements based on sort of where they're at. Some bodies can tolerate certain amounts of macronutrients and micronutrients better than others, right? So yeah, understanding yourself in terms of health, fitness, nutrition, things like that is extremely important still. Now, the funny thing is that as technology improves, actually, these issues might get solved in pretty short order. I mean, we're already seeing interesting things like the GLP-1 antagonists, or Ozempic for y'all. Now, that is, a part of a solution to the obesity problem, for example, right? And I'm sure there will be many more such, breakthroughs in these different areas, right? And that's great, but let's not rely on that. Let's not depend on that, and let's not have to wait for that. You can take action now today by cleaning up your diet, by taking care of your body, doing the things that is good for you, right? So that's absolutely one of the main things to teach our kids, as they're moving forward. And that can be fun, right? Like, play sports, play games, like run around, do fun things, right? Go outside, and when I talk about that it's important for kids to understand technology, that doesn't mean that they need to use technology all that much, right? When we do homeschool, we primarily use books, like printed books, and writing with a pen and paper or a pencil and paper and a notebook. We have some time allotted for, coding and stuff, and I've taught my kid how to use large language models, locally, and understand system prompts and how to create your own agents and things like that. And I've taught him how to, use the terminal and bash commands and, code in Python and things like that. And he's getting his feet wet and he loves that. But there are limits on that, He only just got an iPhone because I got divorced, right? So, needed a way to communicate independently. But even that iPhone, it doesn't have any apps on it. There's no games on it. There's not really anything except like FaceTime and messages, right? That he's able to use on that. And I have to watch him when he's emulating other people, picking up his phone at random moments to say, hey, put that away, you don't need it, right? Or hey, what are you doing with that, right? And if he's not, sending a message or making a call to someone, the phone goes away, right? And of course, you have like some educational apps on the iPad or whatever for, helping to learn math. And I think anything that can make learning more fun is good, but hard limits on that, right? Sticking to the old thing still, because we know at this point through research, and data collection, what the outcomes are for kids who have unrestricted sort of usage of especially the handheld devices like iPads and mobile phones. I mean, I've seen this one instance. The kid couldn't have been more than 2 years old, and he was like bundled, sort of like hunched down the ground, like in tears, crying, making the thumb swipe motion with his hand, like he's like, I want the phone. Like, couldn't have been more than 2 years old, right? Definitely couldn't speak words at that point, right? Besides maybe like mama, baba or something, right? And that just goes to show you, like, again, without an understanding of what you're using, right? Without understanding the technology, you will serve it rather than it serving you, right? So extremely important to make sure that kind of stuff is kept in check. So then I think another important thing to teach your kids is to be optimistic about the future, right? Maintain a positive attitude. Appreciate the things that are good in the world. Appreciate the progress that has been done. Understand that, especially in many parts of the world, the living conditions that we have are like unfathomable compared to, what it was, in the grand scheme of things not too long ago, right? Like the richest kings of 300 years ago could only dream about, the lifestyle of, a lower middle class citizen in a developed country, right? It is absolutely amazing, the things that we have around us, in terms of comfort and convenience, and even stuff like keeping us healthy, medicine that didn't exist, being protected from the elements, strong stable houses, not like some rickety old thing. Those castles certainly were impressive, but I wouldn't want to live in one back then still. I mean, it'd be like no insulation, get real cold in there still, not that much fun. So being optimistic for that, and then looking forward into the future, right? I think it's very easy for people to get into that quote unquote doomer mindset, where they're only seeing the bad side of things, they're only seeing the bad potential outcomes, and well, if enough people think like that, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you've ever seen the movie Tomorrowland, it's kind of a fun, a snake, hello. Have a good day, bud. Not that big, don't worry. Yeah, if you've ever seen the movie Tomorrowland, that kind of like puts it into a little bit of perspective still, like, you know, where the whole idea was everybody was, you know, predicting a negative future, and then it was like eventually come to pass or something, right? At least that was one interesting takeaway from that film. So yeah, like, be optimistic about the future, because the future can be awesome, you know, if we make it that way, right? You know, if we use all these incredible technologies and breakthroughs that we've got, and do good things with it, right? And, you know, and I think that kind of sums it up here at this point. I'm sure we could go into smaller details, but yeah, it's not, it doesn't need to be overwhelming. It doesn't need to be, you know, a big sort of like a big endeavor. Just take care of the basics, right? You know, be positive, take care of your body, understand technology, you know, let it serve you, don't serve it. Hard limits on the addictive potential of technology, you know, and everything will be fine. All right, that's all for today. Have a good one.